Hi everyone, thanks for spending a few minutes with us now to talk about the High Performance Teams program in the Information and Technologies branch. My name's Pete Stebbins, I'm the Project Director, and with me is Michael O'Leary, the Assistant Director General. Michael, welcome.
Thank you.
So Michael, firstly, going back a step, let's talk about you and your role leading the branch and also history. What's been your career to date?
When I first started, I actually go right back to after I left university. I actually went to the Royal Military College in Duntroon. I left there and then went into teaching. So I went to Mount Isa,
yes.
Where I lived with the local computer advisor.
Okay.
So we had computers all throughout the house, and I took a bit of an interest in computing because of that.
Yes.
When I left Mount Isa, I went to Brisbane. I continued doing that as a side thing in the schools that I was working in.
So as soon as you hit the ground as a teacher, you're immersed in the technology side of it as well, and then that followed you from Mount Isa to Brisbane. It stayed with you.
Absolutely, because it was one of the things back in those days. Apple had devices everywhere, so it was always the Apple IIes, and then it became the Apple IIc, the 2G.
Oh, see, I was a Commodore 64 kid, so yeah, Apple was the primo.
Well, you were very flash, because my original computer was the Big 20 with the cassette drive.
And the Atari 2600 when it had like 16 kilobytes.
That was pretty exciting, that one. And you could play really good games on that one.
True, that was a bonus.
So yeah, that was my journey. So I then moved to Brisbane, and then I went off to do my first one-teacher school. And at the time, I was working for a principal who I wouldn't say was a great leader, and I went, I could do that job and be a nicer guy at the same time. So I applied, and I got my very first one-teacher school.
Oh, like a Band 5?
Band 5.
We're talking about? Yeah.
Back in those days, it was in the middle of nowhere. On the Dingo Mount Flora Beef Road. There was a little place called Valkyrie. So in '95, a couple of us went down to the conference, came back and said, hey, this internet stuff's going to be big, we should probably get on board with it. And we employed a guy who was a computer modeler to do some work with us, but we also got another guy a guy called Jerry Jeffress, and I was just reading in the paper the other day that Jerry sold his place from up there. Jerry was great for opening doors for us. Jerry was he was a special effects guy in the original Star Wars. Really? So he actually won, an Academy Award. So Jerry was a hippie. He'd turn up with no shoes on. He was living the alternate life.
But he had that time in California with John Dykstra.
Absolutely.
All the Star Wars crew.
So Jerry would rock up to a meeting when we go.
Cluster.
No. We brought him down here to Brisbane to try and get permission to do what we were going to do.
Right.
And we brought Jerry, and so Jerry would rock up and he'd pull out of his Hessian bag the Oscar and Jammer on the table, and we'd have this meeting about, hey, we want to do this internet.
That's street cred, right?
Absolutely. They went, oh, okay, we'll let you have a crack. So we actually put in the first wide area network in the department. But we had kids really involved in understanding the internet and understanding how it worked. I used to teach kids to hand code HTML pages.
Really?
Can't remember how to do it now, but used to hand code pages with kids in year 5 and year 4 in that area.
And the kids were fired up about it.
Kids were excited about it, so we do all those things. We also had a text-based environment called Bushmoo, which was, the Bushnet was the whole thing that we put together. And we had kids that were struggling with English. And when they got involved in this just propelled them because it was a text-based environment.
Yes.
And as a text-based environment, they had to learn to explain the scene. So you're trying to describe the bush and this room and what's in it. They have to get really rich with their language. So it really improved kids' language.
Well, so I never thought about that with, I used to basic,
But in this case, the environment, because you're actually coding an environment so that people can read it and go, yeah, I can visualise in my head like a book, like when you read a book. So it was really, really exciting. Took a move to Brisbane. Just continued sort of doing stuff in the IT space.
Again, principalship role still?
Another principalship role.
Bigger schools? How big are the schools now that you...
Well, in actual fact, in Charters Towers, my school was around about 350. By the time I came to Brisbane, the school was about 250, so it was actually down in size.
Okay.
But we needed to move.
But again, I'm assuming you had to work with teaching teams in that environment, you had to implement change.
Was constantly working with teaching teams and understanding where they're going and what they're delivering.
And IT was evolving really rapidly at that point, I'd assume.
Yeah, massive change. And I worked with a lot of teams on supporting schools.
Yeah.
And then in those days, we were actually trying to work with schools in adjusting their pedagogy to use the digital frame.
Right.
So we had lots of teams. We did a lot of work with schools. We'd bring principals in, we'd bring school teams in, and we'd run them through 2 or 3 day workshops.
Your teaching background, your principal background.
Doing all of those things, yeah, absolutely. So it was, I guess it was authentic because I was coming from a school background and working with schools on how do they move forward in this digital world and what do they do to meet that. Then I became the executive director in what was web and digital delivery. So it was all about the websites, all of the digital capability stuff, the new technology things that are facing schools, and the use of new online tools and things like that. And then I was due to come offline and just work on NAPLAN online.
Okay,
That was going to be my 3-year challenge, and I was going to do that. We had an incident that happened, and I took over the acting Assistant Director General role. So, managing, the team that is ITB now is a really interesting piece because we've got, everyone from the guys that are still installing equipment working for us. We've got people who are coding things. We've got people that are on the phones dealing with schools and supporting their problems. And we've got people over this side that are imagining the next pieces and how do they fit together and what comes forward.
Yes, you've got like this full IT universe sitting inside the education department.
That's right.
So talk to me more about teams then. You've obviously worked with an enormous amount of teams. I assume, and from what you shared, a lot of project teams over the last decade or longer. And then those stable teams back in the schools, albeit those, 200, 300 student schools. There's still teams in that. How have teams, why do they pop up on your radar? Why are teams important in all the different things we could be concentrating on?
Well, I think teams are the cogs that make things happen. At the end of the day, nothing happens without people.
Yes.
And probably, if you look at IT, the most complex component of IT are people.
Yes, well, yes.
Because in my business, in the business of doing the work that we do, there are 3 components that really go together. The IT component, or the technological solution, only does so much. There are people and there are processes. And all of those things go together to make a system or a solution.
With you.
And that's really important. And the people working together as a team will determine whether the technology or the process is going to work, and how people get on with one another is really important.
Yeah, that's true. And we see this in safety culture as well.
Absolutely.
Where, the old aircraft and crash investigator one or whatever, where often it's those human factors that can, have unintended negative consequences and or save the day.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that we do have to look at all the time, is whilst something looks like a good idea, we have to go back and say, what are the unintended consequences of doing that?
So when we think about teams then, and drawing now into the branch, like it's been a real privilege for me to have spent so much time now starting the high performance teams journey with all the different teams in the branch. Talk to me though about, to ask the obvious question, why are we doing that? Why are we doing that now? Transformation occurs best when there are challenges and opportunities to attach learning to. Talk to me a bit more about the impetus now to be heading this way with the branch.
So, basically what we're trying to get out of this is to deal with some of the issues that are appearing from our Working for Queensland surveys.
Yes.
Things like people being disconnected, people not understanding what's going on, feeling that they're not being led, and it's really important that our leaders lead. And so you only lead when you've got a good performing team, and we're as good as the people underneath us.
Hence the leadership teams themselves have been some of the first entries into this program.
Absolutely, and it's about understanding how we operate and trying to get a good structure for our people to do team meetings and a whole range of things. We deal with a lot of people that are quite technical. So how do we help them become the good leaders they need to be for their teams? And that's one of the major reasons we're tackling this, because it really will drive us and help drive us forward and allow our people to enjoy the work that they're doing and understand their place within the work that we're doing. Because people become dissatisfied when they actually don't know their place in space. And so part of this is about helping them understand that they are an important part of the big machine that is ITB. And without them, and without their leaders supporting them and helping them, we're not going to go anywhere. We're not actually going to make a difference for the end user. And our end user, at the end of the day, our ultimate whole thing is about how do we make things better for the kids at the end of the line? How do we make their life easier? How do we make the learning easier for them? And how do we make them, great citizens for Queensland in the long term?
Yeah. So we've had those working for Queensland results. We've had the will of the people, the voice of the people drive the need for better team systems and better leadership of teams. Are there any other big pieces of work coming down the pipe for the branch where, again, the need to use these sort of team processes is going to optimise the delivery? What sort of projects have we got on the horizon?
So we've got some really significant work doing. So the first time in a long time, I've actually gone out to the different business units within central office and asked them what they want from ITB. So getting from them what they need us to do to support them do their job is really important.
So it's that internal customer service focus.
First of all, it's that. It's actually getting to understand that. So our people need to understand that we are servicing them and we deal with one part of the organisation that's a regulator, another part of the organisation which is direct delivery. So we've got early childhood, which do regulation, and over this side we've got state schooling, who deliver direct to the door, and we provide service right to the desktop sitting in the classroom. So they're two different things, but how do we help them move forward is what we're trying to do and understand their needs from us. So we need to start working across the branch rather than working in our silos. So that's the other reason that we really want to get onto high-performing teams, so that our teams are not just the individual teams we think of when we're working with the people just around us. It's the team above who work across, and the team next to us, and the team over there that we don't normally work with, but today we've got an important thing we need to work on together.
So again, that consistency of work practice, respecting the differences within the teams, but having a branch consistency to enable all that cross-team pollination.
So it becomes consistency of language, consistency of practice, consistency of process, that people know how to operate in those sort of teams.
Fantastic, fantastic. So we're heading into, like a lot of teams are underway now as they're watching this, they're making their first movements through this, and some are on the journey more than others. What's been working well for you? What's surprised you that's been going well? What have been some challenges, and what's on the horizon as we look to the next phase of the project?
Look, I think there's a whole bunch of things in all of those things. I think the working well is we're actually, the senior leaders are actually starting to communicate and work better together.
Yes.
IT does crisis well. Yep. We always do. But we need to operate well, and we need to apply the same sort of stuff we do with a crisis where we all get together and we solve the problem. We need to do that over here in the normal way we work.
Yeah, to optimise well-being when it's not a crisis.
Correct.
Yes.
And so by working closer together that way and applying the high-performing teams stuff, we are actually getting into that space. We're starting to see some results.
Terrific.
I think the challenge we've got is, because we're technical, we try to take out the human components of some of the program, which we've discussed today and learned today, and we need to stop doing that. We need to make sure we do those.
So stay the course, have the full medicine, not just half the medicine.
Absolutely, take the full 10 mils. Don't take 9.5. Don't take 7.
Don't take the 7 you want. Take the 10.
Don't take the full 10 and take it for the full course of the treatment, because it is important.
And sometimes you're so right. Sometimes we get rid of the antibiotic too soon with the flu, and we get the rebound.
We get the rebound.
Yeah, so, terrific. And so talk to us about what's on the horizon then. What do you see for the branch the next 6 months? They'll be working with their line managers, they'll be in the teams, they'll be in the learning pit, working in the business and on the business. It's a cliche we use, learning new ways of doing things, as well as getting on with this ongoing workload that you've described.
I'm looking forward to our teams challenging why we do things the way we do.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the work we do. But a lot of things we've done traditionally because we've always done it that way, and that's a lot of businesses have that. Yep. I'm looking forward to our teams applying this sort of logic and having rich conversations and rich debates about why we do things, how we do things, and how we can make it better, not just for ourselves, but also for our customers and clients. And I think this is really exciting, and it will enable people and empower people to have those conversations.
Yeah, and we talk about the safety comes from within the structure in high-performance teams, and how much you can generate innovation when you create that safe structure that comes from being in a high-performance team.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're going to get. I think people are going to feel comfortable in that range to do that piece of work.
Michael, thank you so much for spending some time with us today to talk about the project.
No, thank you. Much appreciated.